teaches, and this is going to be an edition of Love After Trauma. If you are joining me from Facebook, welcome and thank you for joining me. And if you are joining from YouTube, hello, welcome, YouTube family. Hit subscribe, turn on the notification button. And thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join me. I'm just checking to see if this feed is public, which again, for whatever reason, is not. So I'm going to edit the privacy setting and we can get started. All right, so welcome to Love After Trauma. Today I'm going to be talking to you about emotional recovery for codependence. And so, like I said, welcome if you're joining me on Facebook or if you're joining on YouTube. Again, hit your subscribe button and turn on your notifications. This is about healing so that we can walk in our authentic identity and experience the love that we desire, the love that we deserve, and the love that we should get, that imperfect but perfect love for you. So, codependency. What is codependency? Well, it generally can be characterized by a person belonging to a dysfunctional, one-sided relationship where the person relies on the other person for meeting pretty much all of their emotional needs. It is also described as a relationship that enables another person to maintain their irresponsible behavior or their addictive behavior and or even underachieving. And this can be an example like for alcoholics, or another example is like, when you just like, we have a lot of people that do talk about like how mothers can be with their sons and the son can do no wrong while they're a bit more stricter or harsher with the daughter. So that's another example of a codependent behavior. Now, nobody just becomes codependent just because, but there's something that takes place in their lives that causes them to be like that. And so real quickly, before we get into the real discussion for today, I want to talk to you about that. So, what are the root causes of codependency, right? So, codependency for most people is formed really by the age 7. It's growing up in a home that is unpredictable, and you have an unsafe home, home where issues are constantly swept under the rug. So you learn not to trust yourself. And if you have a parent in there that like is an alcoholic, or you have a narcissistic parent, that's just another reason for the codependency to take place, or to be an issue in the life of this child, or to take roots. So again, the home is unpredictable, it's chaotic, you're not able to express your feelings, it's a rigid environment, and you believe you're not allowed to do anything other than what your parents want you to do. And there's a lot of blaming that comes into this. There's a lot of blaming, a lot of condemnation, a lot of negativity. So if your home was chaotic, you learn to actually become a caretaker. If your parents are emotional, you learn how to manage their emotions. And while you're managing their emotions, guess what? You're neglecting your own emotions. You become a caretaker to other people's feelings. So early on, you learn that the people you love the most might not be there for you, but you should be there for them. And so in turn, your ability to trust people becomes an issue. Now, there's a lack of intimacy, or the lack of intimacy is created because the people that you love hurt you. And so you tend to keep people at a distance because there is no trust there. You've already been let down. Hello, welcome, thank you for joining. So there's that inability to trust yourself because you're encouraged not to talk about your feelings, and you don't trust people because you don't think you're worthy. And so that leads to having low self-esteem. So those are some of the reasons why what generate or what make a person become a codependent. So now I want to talk to you about the characteristics of codependency. That way you can see what does codependency look like. And you may even ask yourself, well, does this apply to me? Or maybe it'll make sense to you why you do what you do. So you tend to be the person who feels the need to fix everybody else. You want to fix what's happening in their lives. You want to fix their feelings. And this is kind of like the mop and the broom, just there to sweep up everything for everybody else while neglecting yourself. And you become obsessed, like literally obsessed with fixing other people's problems, and you're the friend or the employee that fixes everyone's problems, but you never take care of your own. And this demonstrates a lack of boundaries. So you offer advice, for example, even when advice is not being asked for. On the surface, it can look like a great quality to have, but we have to take a deeper look at this. Like, why is this happening? Why are you doing this? And you tend to find out, that it's to feed an emotional need. And it's not a positive thing, because like you're demonstrating a lack of boundaries, so you're basically out of focus. That's it. You're out of focus. You become emotionally drained and exhausted because you are so out of focus, and you make it your business to worry about everybody and everything else. And so naturally you are going to be tired. You're constantly attracting people who need to be fixed. Meanwhile, you yourself need fixing. And so this is why I would like always say, like, a lot of people who encounter narcissists, slow down on declaring that you're an empath and take a look and see, is everything else in you okay before you wear that title? Because you may very well just be unaware that you are codependent, because that's how, you don't see yourself as such, and you want to see the good in yourself. You try to, but you have to be real with yourself. You can't deny who you are or what your experiences shaped you to be. And the bigger part of it is that the longer you deny yourself that reality, or just the ability to see yourself for what it is, or what you are, or what you're going through, the longer you're going to continue to have those type of cycles or those type of toxic relationships in your life. So as long as you don't change, nothing changes. You Codependents really, they feel the need to be validated by external factors. Again, this comes out of childhood experiences and the homes that we come from. um, there's a need to be seen. It's always like, can you see me, can you see me? And so sometimes you find people will, in adulthood, they'll be the most, right? They'll do extra things just for the attention, just to be seen, because they need to be able to be validated by other people to feel like they're okay. And that's really, it's an underlying issue. And this is what this is about. This is about dealing with our underlying issues so that we can experience our authentic self, because really this is an identity issue. Codependents are highly sensitive to criticism, and they have great low self-esteem. And when someone you're trying to help, or someone you're trying to fix, rejects that help or the opportunity for you to fix them, you become mortally wounded, and that triggers abandonment and attachment trauma within that person. Another characteristic of codependency is that you stay in unhealthy relationships for much longer than you need to. And you actually know that you're in an unhealthy relationship, but you just don't leave. And this is where that crazy dance comes with the codependent and a narcissist, because the narcissist has a need for admiration, attention, affection, and adoration. And the codependent has a need to pour those into somebody. And, somebody who is okay with things being one-sided, which is your narcissist. And so you have this dance until you can dance no more, and there's usually an explosive end. And so, you know um yeah, that's why they stay in unhealthy relationships, because they're in denial and they don't know who they are or where they are. And so also lacking boundaries is an issue, because your boundaries are so essential. In order for you to end something, you have to know where you begin. And as long as you lack that awareness, as long as you're so out of focus, you will never reach that moment, and you continue to stay in the cycle of toxic relationships. Even if that one ends, another one will be on the way. There's also what codependents do a lot is deflect. Instead of paying attention to what maybe your spouse is doing, or a problem that's going on in the home, you maybe gambling, cheating, porn addiction, you ignore them. You act like you don't have to deal with them. And because you're really avoiding the emotional aspects. Remember, they don't trust their own self, they don't trust their own emotions, because they haven't had the opportunity to develop emotions of their own. And so oftentimes, When their partner has done something, let's just say they've cheated for the umpteenth time, they'll say stuff like, oh, it's not so bad, or, they said they won't do it again, or, oh, we have an understanding and it'll get better, or whatever they decide to say. But at the end of the day, all they are doing is deflecting, and that's because they don't know. Again, they don't know how to deal with their emotions. Now, another thing is that codependents will avoid confrontation. They will completely avoid confronting their own feelings. And this ties into my prior points. And this is where we now begin to see, not just the deflection, but avoidance of confronting an issue. And, it's because they don't want to have heated exchanges. They don't want to stir the waters. They don't want to rock the boat. They just let it slide and everything will be okay, because you don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. You don't want to be seen as that troublemaker. And so let's just avoid confrontation altogether. Another thing, or another characteristic about codependence, is they're very manipulative. They manipulate people and situations, and they do this simply because they don't know how to get their way. They don't know how to communicate their needs, and you may get a lot of passive aggressive behavior from this. So, like, let's just say, for instance, we have one spouse who is a gambler and has gone ahead and gambled a whole lot of money. They gambled a large amount of savings. And instead of the codependent, the other spouse, simply saying, hey, I have a problem with what you did, and we're going to sit down and talk about this like adults, and we're going to deal with it, because there are going to be repercussions for this behavior. What the codependent may do is like, oh, okay, you did that. Now I'm going on Amazon and I'm buying everything that I want, so we're not making the situation better. The codependent is trying to communicate that dissatisfaction with their spouse in a passive aggressive manner. So, there's no follow through. There's no real follow through. There's no consequences for their boundaries. And so this cycle just begins to continue, and resentment builds up, because, they keep feeling like they're being violated. And there's also another characteristic is a lack of self-care routine. They focus on everyone else and everything else, but never pamper themselves. They take on way more than they should. And at the end of the day, they are simply too tired to really worry about themselves, because when you've been minding everybody else's business and not your own, guess who's going to be tired? You. So like I said earlier, there's a lack of boundaries that permeates into the lives of others. Let me say this again. Let me say it how I'm thinking it. Okay, they have a lack of boundaries, and that permeates into the life of others without having their own perimeter. So essentially, they're taking care of other people's business, and they're worried about what other people will think, and how other people think and perceive them. That's something that you don't have control of. People are going to think what they're going to think, and that's just what it is. You have no control over it, but they become so concerned about it. You have boundaries. There are boundaries that you have with outside factors, things outside of yourself, other people. But then you should have your own boundaries, that, like when that thought comes in, where you want to be, where there's a thought that's trying to make you worry or be so overly concerned about what somebody else thinks about you. You need a boundary that says, okay, enough. You need that level of awareness for yourself. And so you value you value what other people feel, but you don't worry about your own feelings. You neglect that. And, codependents have a very difficult time with decisions. They wait for other people to lead them, and they just simply follow. There is no anchoring of their selves. And so self gets lost in an abyss, a bottomless pit. They cannot, another thing is codependents cannot identify a single emotion. And this is important, because you have to be able to identify how you are feeling, so that you can set boundaries. Like, listen, your boundaries are so essential. Like I always say, boundaries are there to protect and to preserve who you currently are, as well as you're becoming. But one thing that boundaries can help you do is create dreams. They can help you set goals, help you, to help you from not, it will help you to not minimize yourself as well as your accomplishments. And this is something that's behaviors that come so naturally to codependence because there's a tendency to not feel good enough. So codependents are constantly devaluing themselves and having a difficult time and have a difficult time accepting compliments. Like, okay, so I'm breaking down the characteristics of codependency in case you forgot, because it just feels like I've been talking forever. But we're breaking down the characteristics of codependent behavior. And so, with a codependent, they don't see themselves as lovable. And no matter what kind of wonderful, empathetic qualities they have, the codependent will tend to say something like, "Oh, I hope they see value in me," or "If I do this, maybe I'll become more lovable." Codependents are more likely to have pity sex. Yep, maybe if I sex him, maybe he'll see some value in me. Or maybe if I take her out on the most expensive date ever, and if I max out my cards buying her everything that she wants, she'll see value in me. It doesn't work like that. You know, you have a difficult time. You have a difficult time enforcing boundaries, but you need them. And you find that codependents have a difficult time asking for help. It's foreign to them because they are so used to being everybody else's caretaker that they don't know how to speak up and articulate what it is that they need. So there's also they also have a difficult time completing projects. Anybody else can call them up to say, "Hey, I need you to help me with ABCD." And even if they want to say yes, even if they want to say no, they're going to say yes. And they're going to make sure that that job gets done. But let's flip the script and make that same assignment necessary for them to complete for themselves, and they'll procrastinate. Somebody else can come and you'll complete the task. You will move heaven and earth to do it for them, but you simply will not do that for yourself. And you know that's now abandoning yourself. It's neglecting your own needs, and it's a characteristic of codependency. Another thing is intimacy is difficult because at your core it's chaotic, and it involves a lot of shame, and it's your core is also not nurtured, and so there's tremendous emotional neglect, and there's also possibly physical or sexual abuse that makes you feel unlovable. And so a lot of these ideas, really, like I said earlier, a lot of these ideas are impressed on us by the age of 7 and can really take a person a lifetime to try and undo. And that's why I want to bring this topic up. I want to have this discussion so that you can begin the work. The sooner you are able to identify these issues, the sooner you're able to see these things, then the sooner you can begin the process of healing. Like everything that I'm talking about here and I'm teaching you now, this is not that, it just came to me. Like, this is my journey. This is my story. I've done a lot of these things, not all of them, but a lot of them. And, I'm just trying to help somebody else. So you also have the inability to get close to people. You can be very loving, or they can be very loving, but you lack the inability to nourish. And this is you lack the inability to nourish your inner self. And this ties into not being able to develop true intimacy. And so, that's why it becomes difficult to get to close to people. And it can lead you to attracting people who are emotionally unavailable or love avoidant, or it makes you attract narcissists, right? And so it's so important that you are able to redirect your thoughts back to yourself. And if you start off neglected in childhood, it continues through an adulthood, through your adulthood life or your adulthood stages. And like I was saying, this is difficult. It's difficult work. It requires us, going back, revisiting pain sometimes. But the only person who can do this work is you. Like, I'm talking for myself now. Like, yeah, I didn't want to do the work. Like, I would just be like, Lord, can you just breathe on me and everything becomes normal? But that's not how it works. You have to do the work. You have to do the work. And, the first step is really just admitting that this is me. I see parts of me in what she said. I see parts of me as a codependent. And you begin to just do the work to heal, because the only person that you're going to be lying to is you. And the only person that you're going to be cheating at the end of the day is you. So why, just get let's get started and do the work today. And I think one reason that a lot of people have an issue with codependency is because it's looked at so negatively. Codependency essentially is a lack of self-love. It's a self-love deficit. And not everybody wants to do that, because it's so easy to dress up our emotions. It's so easy to dress up our emotions. Can I then define intimacy as opposed to passion? Well, intimacy, I would say, like being able to, for those who can't see this question on YouTube, the question is, can you please define intimacy as opposed to passion? Passion is that thing that you wake up and you can't stop thinking about. Passion is that driving force behind you, but intimacy is the ability to connect with your inner self. It's your ability to connect with your inner, with even that inner child, like me being able to tap into that 4-year old and honor that person, or connect to them, so that we can develop some type of trust, some type of self-awareness, a value system. And that's where the love begins to develop, or you begin to rework that. I don't know if that answered the question, but like I was saying, codependency is mostly rooted in childhood trauma. It's emotional neglect, and trauma to a child can really be anything that they're not able to process. And let me tell you something, it's so easy to traumatize a child. So if you have a child in your care, you have to be very careful with what you're doing and what you're saying, what you're exposing this child to, because we don't want to keep raising children that have to recover from their childhood. Like, it's not easy. Like, look at me. Look at other people that some people are older than me. Some people that I talk to are in their 60s, a whole 20 something years older than me, and they are still trying to recover from their childhood traumas. So just be careful with what you are saying to these children, and allow them to express themselves. Yes, there's a way that children should express themselves, but we shouldn't stifle that in them. We want them to grow up confident. We want them to grow up able to trust themselves. We want them to grow up to be able to speak up for themselves. It's a lot of work, but you can heal. And in order to do that, you need to connect to other people. Or you Okay, let me try to think this thought. Here, codependents are rescuers, and they want to rescue everybody else. They're people pleasers. They want to fix everybody else's issues, and these are great qualities. These on the surface can look like really good things to do, but they're doing it from a self-love deficit. They're doing it from a need for their own emotions to be met. And you've got to have some anchoring thoughts that will keep you on track. And so this is where I want to talk about some of the commandments that I made in my life. Like, I'm going to share these. I will make a whole post with these commandments so that you can start applying these to your life. But my goal is that, or my hope is that as I become more transparent and I share these intimate parts of my healing process, add to it. Add, even if it's not about you, but it's something that is impressed upon you. Add to it, so that somebody else who is experiencing that can pick up from what you share. So one of these commandments, really, because that's what they are. We know the 10 commandments from the Bible, and we do our best to apply them in our lives and to honor and respect them. But here's some for your own life. So the first one is, I shall not honor another person's opinion of me over my own opinion of myself. Now, when we talk about our own opinion of ourselves, or when I do, I have to find out, where's the source of this opinion of me? Where's the truth about who I am? And for me, I go back to my creator to find out, who does he say that I am? And I'm wrapped up in his identity. So nobody's opinion of me will take precedence over his. Nobody's opinion of me will take precedence over mine, which is wrapped up in him. And so that's the first commandment. Again, codependence. Everybody else's opinion matters more than theirs. No, time out for that. We're exiting stage left with worrying about what other people are saying about ourselves, about us, and we're taking focus. We're bringing the focus back to self. We're anchoring our soul in what feeds our soul. And now we're beginning to, we're laying the foundation. I shall honor my own. I shall not honor anyone else's opinion of myself more than I do mine. No one is allowed to be your God. Not your spouse, not your child, not your job, not your business, not your status, nothing. All of those things can be identifiers to how we see ourselves. But none of that should be more important. How your spouse sees you shouldn't be more important as how you see yourself. How your children see you shouldn't be more important about than it shouldn't be more important than how you see yourself. How your bank account sees you is not more important than how you see yourself. I could have 17 cents in the bank right now, but that doesn't define me. Even if I had $1 million in the account, that doesn't define who I am. Go back and find out. Go back, tap into the essence of who you are, tap into who you believe in, tap into your gods, and find out what he says about you. And that's who you are. That's your truth. And that's what you hold on to. You frame your world with his words. The second commandment is, I will speak my truth. And this is so hard for a codependent to do because, like, first of all, you don't trust yourself. And so how are you going to speak your truth when you don't trust yourself? You don't want to offend people, and so you find yourself lying on behalf of people. You find yourself saying yes when you want to say no. No, we're not doing that anymore. Like, listen, exit stage left with that. I will not be afraid to speak my truth, because when you don't do that, you end up bottling up your emotions. And one day you're going to explode, and then you're going to be the crazy person, all because you couldn't say no. I don't feel like helping you today. And you don't have to lie about why you're saying no. If I'm saying no because I want to stay home and in bed and watch the Smurfs all day, that's my business. That's my time. Like, no, be comfortable with your no. So, a little sidebar, like last year, like the beginning of last year, 2019, I said I wasn't going to do any New Year's resolution. It was just going to be the sequel. It was going to be part two of the development of me, right? And so my priority last year was self-preservation. I had to put all of these principles into place, and I had to honor them. But what was top of my list was saying no, because I could never say no. I would be so mad, angry, frustrated, just bitter, because I was doing stuff I didn't want to do, because I didn't know how to say no. Now I dare you to ask me. That no slide off real smooth, like hot butter. No. And no, I'm not apologizing. I'm not even explaining it sometimes, because guess what? No is a full sentence. Okay, let's get to the third commandment is, I will not be afraid to rock the boat. And not the boat, but you have to become comfortable with your truth, and you have to stand by it. This means you will not apologize when you've done nothing wrong. You will, it's okay to apologize when you're in the wrong, but if you have done nothing wrong, you don't have to apologize. You don't have to make excuses for what is right in front of everybody's face when you didn't do anything. No, it means that you are going to keep your peace, and and if they're wrong, that's fine. Be confident enough to express yourself and leave things alone. And what I want you to know is, when you start this walk, trust me, you're going to be challenged on all of these things. And there is no, you can't go through the process without any testing. There's going to come that purification. You're going to be put to the fire, but you have to stand your ground, and you have to be able to understand that you're anchoring yourself, you're anchoring your soul, you're doing this work so that you can move forward from a healthier perspective, so that you can begin to experience different results than you've currently been getting in your life. You see, your relationship with yourself really sets the bar for the relationships that you're going to have with other people. And so if I'm not afraid to rock the boat to honor me, how am I going to be able to um, you know honor myself in a marriage? How am I going to be able to honor my voice at work? How am I going to honor myself or my voice with my children? Because you're going to have to rock the boat. Otherwise, you'll find that you're the parent who has a 13, 14, 15-year-old in the basement smoking weed, getting drunk, partying. You're the parent buying the alcohol because you don't want to rock the boat. Sometimes it's not that they want to be the cool parent, they just don't want to rock the boat. They are so, you know, emotionally underdeveloped that they can't. And it's so dangerous to be like that as a parent, because okay, what kind of children are we raising? How will these children turn out? I bet you there's a high probability that you raise narcissists because they're used to getting their way, and there is no there you know we remove that their ability to empathize because they're being rewarded for nothing. I'm just saying, and so essentially, I will not be afraid to rock the boat. Worry about yourself. I'm going to honor my opinion of myself. That's number 4. Teach your mind to focus on your identity. Like I say earlier, and I've said several times, is that codependency forms in childhood. And so you're given a false identity. You're given a false sense of who you are. For me, I always, always, always said I was used goods, and I was not good enough, and I was unlovable. That was like the track that used to play in my mind all the time. And so part of honoring myself is to train my mind that you are worthy, you are lovable, you are, you have good qualities that are desirable to somebody else, and you will be a good wife to somebody. You are a good mother. I have to retrain my brain. I've spent a lot of many years retraining my brain to not chase anyone else's opinion of me. I'm going to worry less. I do worry less about what other people think. And that's, it's okay. When they violate, when they cross your boundaries, there are consequences for that. You can't just slide by and, think you're going to run up in my life and do things how you want to do it. No, retrain your brain to honor you. There has to be consequences for a violation of your boundary, and everything is not about burning bridges or setting off explosives, but hold people accountable. The fifth one, the fifth commandment is to seek my own permission and approval. Don't feel the need to have permission for somebody else to live your life. Don't feel the need for somebody else to come into your life so that you can be happy. You don't feel the need for somebody to say it's okay for you to feel sad. It's okay for you to feel mad at this, when naturally that's what the normal response would be. It's also okay for you if you need to, it's okay for you. You should be comfortable. You should be assured in your decision to say, what, I tried in this marriage, but I don't deserve to be beat. I tried in this marriage. I don't deserve to be cheated on, and I'm out. Give yourself, seek your own permission to do those things. And a lot of it is going to involve you going back and praying about it, getting in your word, and having your faith rejuvenated to get the strength to make these decisions, because they're not easy. My sixth commandment is respect your body. Your body is a temple, and you have to treat it as such. And it's so easy for, we just that rolls off our tongue so easily, so smoothly, that your body is a temple, but it's a gift, and it allows you to move. It allows you to move my hands around. It allows me to think. So the way that you take care of your body, how you feed it, how are you taking care of it? Are you practicing enough self-care? Those are all, that's all part of taking care of your temple. But taking care of your temple does not include having sex for approval for somebody else, or it does not include having sex with somebody so that they may see the better qualities of you, or smoking weed, or doing whatever just to be part of a clique, or just to blend in, or be what other people feel is normal. You're allowed to say the same for me, and I'm not going to do that, or I don't feel comfortable with that. So take your time. And when you don't respect your own body, guess what? You will always attract people who don't respect your body. You will always attract people who don't respect you, and they will continually disrespect you simply because you don't honor yourself. Again, for something to end, you have to know where you begin. And so that's why that's so important. My seventh commandment is trust your anxiety. Now, we're in such a heightened time of anxiety. Anxiety is so, we're facing it every day, because things are just so unstable or frightening, if I can be honest. But your anxiety, allow that to be an indicator of your thoughts. And that's like your thoughts are not in alignment with your destiny. Just because you're anxious, you're experiencing anxiety, that doesn't mean that your destiny lies in the things that you're anxious about. No, it doesn't. So you have to learn to trust when you're not feeling comfortable in the presence of other people. One thing I always say is, your intuition doesn't require any evidence. Now, this is when I'm saying your intuition, I'm talking about that gut feeling. I'm not talking about you're having an emotional response, but it's that inner voice, that gut feeling. You have to learn to trust it. And from my own, I can testify to you right now. Anytime that I've ignored my gut feeling, anytime I've ignored my intuition, I've regretted it each and every single time. Learn to trust it. It teaches you to not be reactive, because again, there's an issue with codependence. There's an issue in trust, in trusting yourself. And so learn not to be reactive to it, but just see it as an indicator that something's out of alignment, and you've got to focus now and begin to ask yourself, what is going on? How am I feeling? Why do I feel unsafe? Why am I, why am I overeating? What is my body trying to tell me? You have to be able to tap into those emotions so that you can redirect your focus and bring everything back into alignment with self. There's nothing wrong with taking time to take care of yourself. You can't be worried about everybody else, so busy worried about everybody else that you neglect yourself. You cannot pour from an empty cup. You cannot give what you have. And in order for you to experience authentic love, even in your homes, even in your, hey, overseer, even in your homes, even in your job, and in these different places, you have to be able to tap into your true emotions and be, again, you can't pour from an empty cup. I don't know how else to say this. And I want you to know that this is not a walk in the park. And for a lot of us, we're going to be doing these things. We're going to be adding to these things for the rest of our lives. But it's a heroic journey. Don't look at it like I have to get to this destination. I have to get to a place of peace. No, enjoy the journey, and trust it. Just like I'm telling you to trust your anxiety, trust the process. Because if you do the work, you are going to see the results. And it's not like, you're going to wake up one day and everything is perfect. It's a gradual thing. And like I was saying, those tests will come, but the tests are only to refine this process. So my eighth commandment is to honor peace and stability. Recognize when you have contributed to unhealthy situations and unhealthy relationships because of your lack of boundaries. And instead of pushing this off onto other people, but you have to begin to deal with it for yourself. Like I used to say, like when I was married, I used to look at his constant cheating, right? I used to look at that and be like, oh, if he wasn't cheating so much, I would have stayed or whatever. But the signs were there, if I can be completely transparent, the signs were there way before. But because, all these reasons that I gave you, I stayed. But you have to get to the point where you honor your own peace and stability, and not let the presence of another person or their absence affect you to that point. Honor that and honor you. This is not just about who you are today. All of this work, all of this hard work that I'm telling you to do, it benefits the person that you're becoming. It helps you walk into your destiny. It helps you be a better parent, a better person, a better daughter, a better son, a better uncle, a better brother. It just a better member of society. And so my ninth commandment is simply letting go of what you cannot control. There are some things that we will experience in life that we just have no control of, and you have to become comfortable with that. When you start saying no, when I started saying no to people and I started showing up for myself and I started honoring my boundaries, guess what? It ruffled so many feathers, and initially kind of felt like, whoa, what's happening? Because I'm wading in deep waters here. This is new. I don't know what to do. But you got to be able to, get comfortable with ruffling feathers. And it's okay for them to be angry. And you don't have to apologize for that. Like, hello, you don't have to stop apologizing for things that you are not responsible for. There's nothing honorable about it. Just don't do it. And if people get used to you always apologizing, they're always going to expect that of you. So, no, learn to tell yourself, I am enough. And that's it. I've always been enough. Change your language. And my last commandment, the 10th commandment, is to choose love over fear, because become more accepting and not controlling. You don't have to judge others because you can't change them. Pay attention to how you feel. This is not about anything about anybody else. It's about what's happening on the inside of you. You have a right to evolve, and this includes your friendships, intimate relationships, platonic ones, whatever. You don't have to beg a person for permission to be, feel, and do. Just be. you know like I've been saying, when you start this process of healing and honoring yourself, you're going to see people definitely will become uncomfortable, and there will be a lot of pushback, but you have to focus on yourself. If you're somebody who is already in a relationship with a narcissist, and you decide that, what, I'm going to stand up for myself, and I'm going to begin to heal the inner me, and I'm going to begin to heal from these codependent behaviors, that's when the narcissist becomes most abusive. Now, sometimes they are physically abusive, and we know that they're emotionally, psychologically, financially, sexually, they're abusive in those manners. But your overall well-being is important, and so that's why be comfortable, be confident in giving yourself permission to exit situations. There's nothing like, exit stage left just because it's cute and to hashtag it. No, exit stage left and do the work. Like, you've got to do the things that honor you. But this is what I wanted to talk to you today about, emotional recovery for codependence. So I started off by explaining what codependency is and the roots of it. Where does it develop? Why does it develop? How? And then we talked about the characteristics of codependency. And then I gave the 10 commandments to healing or recovering from codependency. Now, I will add those commandments to my website, along with boundaries, healthy boundaries for yourself, so that you can begin to start saying yes and no to the right things, and just shifting things into alignment for your life. But this is all I had to share for today, Friday. I will be back on Tuesday. I haven't decided what I'm going to talk about. It will either focus on codependency or, surviving quarantine with a narcissist. Then I'll pick a specific topic about that. I haven't decided which yet. But thank you so much for joining me, Facebook. And if you're on YouTube, hit subscribe, turn on the notification button. And if you're on Facebook and you don't follow me on YouTube, why? I add extra content on YouTube that is exclusive. So you may want to, look up Pink Girl Teaches. But anyway, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope there was a word here that was helpful to you, and that you were able to take something from it. But don't just take it and do nothing with it. Apply it, make it work in your life. And I am proof that this does work. So take care of yourself, love yourselves, and love each other. Until next time.